And so here I've got the Yahoo website again. And one of the reasons why the Yahoo website does work and people do use it is because it follows conventions. No one's going to be overly confused because the banner's up at the top where the search is. If you have a search on your site, people are increasingly looking for it in your banner, usually in the right-hand corner at the top there. They've got the navigation along the side, and they've also got one along the top, and then they've got the main content in the middle here. And as I mentioned, they've got it kind of in two columns with almost an advertising section on the right, and at the bottom is the kind of miscellaneous information and contact information. So, you know, while Yahoo doesn't have as much white space as Google, it does follow website convention, so it's not terribly overwhelming. The next thing you want to think about in terms of design is this idea of your calls to action and where to put them. So we always, you know, in communications, you know, you always wanted to be, we talked about, you know, the newspaper being above the fold, and it was always good to have your headline or your ad above the fold of a newspaper because that's what most people see when they pick up the newspaper. Well, people on websites hate scrolling. It's something that people tend not to do. If they can't find the information above the fold, so to speak, it's generally lost. So we've got this kind of grayed out area on this Meow Foundation website, and what this is to show is just basically what an average screen will show on your website. So even though there's information all the way down here, most people are only going to see this top bit. And so you want to put your main calls to action and most of your navigation in this section. If you've got a current fundraising campaign, or if you do promote online donations with a donate button, if you have, you know, your major kind of media outreach happening, then you want to make sure that it's in this section of your website and not hidden below. People will not scroll down unless they feel compelled to, if there's a reason to. But generally people will find something to click on in this section before they scroll down. So think about that when you're planning the design of your website with your developer. The next thing to think about is graphics, and the idea is to use graphics very thoughtfully. They should convey something very clear and draw people into your site. You shouldn't use graphics for the sake of it, and I will make a comment here about using graphics for text. So you don't want, if you want, this is on the Toronto Community Foundation website, this piece of text is text, and you don't want, if this was an image, it would more likely be like if it was displayed as a graphical image, it would be fuzzy usually, and people wouldn't be able to copy and paste it, and you want to kind of steer away from having everything on your website be an image. You want to have text where there is text for people to read. It allows people to, make the text bigger when they need to and smaller when they need to, copy and paste it when they need to. You never know what people are going to do with it. So this is a really good use of graphics. It's not overwhelming or overpowering on the site, but it draws us into the content. And that's what graphics should really serve one of four purposes on your site. The first, like I said, is to draw people in and draw people to key content on your website. On this website, I bet all of us would, the main things we would go to are this, this main media or news section. I'd be curious about what's below here in these. Smaller pictures on the bottom. I definitely would look at this guy doing hip-hop on the right, and I would even consider these menu options on the right graphics that are pointing us to some key information on the site. So it draws me in. It brings my attention to important information on the site. You also want to use graphics to convey complex information. So when we talked in the beginning about how much of a hurry people are in, you want to think about what information is easier to convey in a graphic rather than in text. In particular, I would think financial information. A good old pie chart conveys a lot more than a long list of revenues and expenses. So use graphics for complex information, and you also want to use graphics to convey visual consistency. So here we've got the repeated graphic throughout the site. You would absolutely actually never get to a section of this Toronto Community Foundation website that look jarringly different. Every section you go to has this repeated pattern, so it's something that people expect and they feel comfortable on that page. I do want to make a note that when people are on your site and they see graphics, people always think that they're clickable links. So you want to make sure that any graphic you have on your website is clickable, because people will try to click on it and will get frustrated if they can't. People are always looking for things to click on websites, so make sure that all of the graphics on your site lead to the information people expect to find behind that by clicking. And a note on visual consistency. So I just have this vital signs. I pulled this from the insert that was in the Globe and Mail recently, which was great. I love that. But I would think that if people were, flipping through the Globe and Mail and saw or heard about vital signs for the first time and saw, okay, my local community foundation was one of the ones listed, and then went to that foundation and didn't see the vital signs graphic, that they would be very confused about that. So, I saw on some websites people just had the vital signs text in their, in a menu option or, somewhere on their main site. But if you don't have that kind of visual consistency, that same logo, that same look, then you're going to confuse people who are coming to your site for something, for a particular reason for the first time. So I think that it's really important to think about the graphics that you've put out there in your media work, in your in any of your print or in any of your print materials. Make sure that those are reflected consistently on your website as well, so that when people land on your website, they're very comfortable about where they've landed and not confused. All right, so next I want to talk about, we've talked a little bit about design. Let's now talk about good website content. And writing for the web is very different than writing for other media, especially offline media. Remember, of course, everyone's in a hurry and impatient, and the blunt truth is that they don't really care as much about your organization as you do. And so they want the information that they want when they want it, and they aren't going to sit and read through a bunch of information to get to the bit that they need. So just the reason I put this image up here, this is a sensor map taking a look at how people engage with websites. So this is looking at where people's eyes go when they actually land on a website. And you can see the hot spots are really the beginnings of this first paragraph here. They kind of skim a little bit, but not really the second paragraph. Their eyes are really taken to this bulleted text. They maybe give some time to this third paragraph, but not really. And they're also looking at menu options. And this is really kind of all to say, this is what people are looking at when they go to your website. So what makes good content? What makes readable content and something that people will actually look at? The first rule, of course, is concise text, keeping things short. The second thing you want is a scannable layout, and the third thing you want is neutral language, and to avoid jargon. So let's take a look at concise text. And here's a good example. This is the, I believe, oh, I'm so sorry, I believe this is the Abbotsford Community Foundation. I think it is. Sorry, I took the top off there, but it is?
Yep, it is.
Okay, good. But I just wanted to show this is a great example of not overpowering people with a lot of text. Putting one simple paragraph, people will read that. We saw that in the previous slide. And then they can click if they're compelled to find out more. So that's always a good rule.